You got the studio sound on. Good evening. Welcome to Street Talk. I'm Dominic Cotton. Unfortunately, Father Russ couldn't make it out here today with us. He's having some medical testing down in New Haven, and so we're going to say our prayers out for him and make sure that he comes through okay. I keep telling him he's not allowed to die just yet. God still has a plan for him, and it's to keep working with me. So I'm here today, and we have a very special guest with us today. Because we get to kind of go back in time to 3 years ago, when a group of crazy people took over the Capitol and a forum they were having about brain injury and how they had this great idea to come around and change our programs, and out of that really became where we all started together, and I came around and we were able to advocate and change paths of things. And I know one of the people that I got to meet that day, who's a good friend of mine, we talk all the time, and we try to go through and help support each other and everything that we have to deal with, with the families and everything else along those lines. My good friend Christine Warren.
Good to see you, Dominic.
It's wonderful to see you. So I know 3 years ago we were all coming together, and I know one of the things that they wanted to change at the time was they wanted to get rid of what I do and as an independent living skills trainer, and they wanted to get rid of cognitive behavioral therapists, and they wanted to have social workers come in and run everything. We're very fortunate in the fact that one of the other things that they were trying to do was they were trying to limit the amount of money that for services, so that it would have greatly changed everything that I do and everything that has to do with your daughter. And I guess I wanted to kind of like go back and like revisit this, because I think over time things have changed.
Things have changed a lot.
And they changed a lot, and we're very fortunate that some things we were able to keep within our programs, but it's still a struggle every day.
Every day it's a struggle.
And the state doesn't make this easier. And the other half, your daughter's got some very specific issues, and the other part of what I wanted to get to and talk about a little bit later on is about medical marijuana, because she takes that to help her with seizures.
That's our newest venture.
Yes. So I don't think I've ever seen anybody talk about this anywhere.
Talk about it.
You hear about, like, I know in my town of Milford, I got 2 or 3 dispensaries going up, one within a mile or two of each other, and you got people up in arms because
they do.
The mayor tried to block it because it was too close to churches and schools. So I don't think people completely understand exactly what's going on with this. Before we get to that, let's go back and talk about your daughter Anne Marie. How did she end up having her injury?
Oh, in 2004, she was in a car accident on her way to work. It's a beautiful Saturday morning, and she had an accident on 84, and she suffered a brain injury. She was in a coma for quite a while. It was a very traumatic event for everybody. Very traumatic. She spent 3 months in Hartford Hospital, 8 weeks in acute rehab, 9 months in long-term rehab care because she had feeding tubes and she was basically coming around. And then we brought her home to the ABI waiver program, and there was nobody there but me.
So in
It was
essence,
me.
at the very start of it, you were
It was me.
you were the program.
I was the program. I said, okay, what do we do now? So we, as a matter of fact, our first ILST person found us, which was wonderful. So I didn't even have to look for her. She found us. She was the epitome of what an ILST should be. So I was very fortunate in the very beginning to have her. We had her for 7 years, which was really wonderful. But from there, you come home, you have to find doctors. You have a slew of paperwork to do. You have to try to maneuver, your loved one through the house. You're new to this. You have no idea. You really have no idea what you're doing.
So how did you manage through this? I mean, who was your guide aside from yourself?
There really wasn't one. The first thing I did was I said, well, I need to find a doctor. So the first thing I did was go to our PCP, our regular family doctor, and from there, at least I knew I had, if she got sick or something happened, at least I knew I had that. So I started with that, and from there, our social worker gave us a few names of different physiatrists to use. So we found our physiatrist, and it just started from there. We're still with the same doctors, too. We don't deviate very much at all, because it's too hard going through the whole thing again. But you're basically doing it on your own, because I knew nothing about brain injury. I didn't even know how to take care of somebody with feeding tubes and what have you. So while my daughter was in the hospitals, I spent the time advocating on her behalf for her care and learning everything that I could, because I knew somehow, some way, I was bringing this girl home and I was going to be taking care of her, because that was not the kind of life that I wanted for her. So I got in there, the trenches. Every day I went to Worcester, Mass. Every day, and worked with her and learned everything I could to take care of her.
Now she's got some specific issues.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, usually when they talk about people with brain injury, the first things I know the social workers worry about are, okay, what do our activities of daily living look like? And with people with brain injury, what we always say is everybody with a brain injury is different.
Right.
And it's so important to be able to recognize how different those things
They
are.
are. They don't fit into a set pattern. There's no set pattern for each one. We could make a schedule every day, and we try really, really hard to adhere to it. But I think we live on Plan B. I think maybe once a year Plan A works. Maybe one day Plan A works. We're always on Plan B and Plan C. Because as an individual, I can kind of plan my day. But with somebody with a brain injury, especially with short-term memory loss and what have you, they don't remember what they're going to do every day or where they're going to be. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to plan out somebody's day. You have a nice plan, and they say, "Sorry, I'm not doing that today," and see if you're going to make me.
Well, that's part of what you're dealing with on a constant basis. Is your daughter has a lot of behavioral
Yeah, she does.
issues, and they're related to the fact that she doesn't remember.
Right.
And some of what I know that you deal with is she has some of these unexplained things that occur to her, and it's without a trigger.
Without a trigger.
So usually when somebody, you can kind of pick apart situations that are going to be complicated for them. Like if they're in a loud and noisy
Right,
place,
then you know.
But sometimes this is you're driving down the road
Yes.
with your daughter. You can't really drive alone with her
No,
because
no, 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 I can't.
what'll happen in the middle of like the drive where it's like nice and quiet and
Oh yeah, then it's where are we going? I said, oh well, we're going back home. We've been to the store and we're going back home. I need to be at work. Why am I not going to work? Turn the car around. I need to go to work. Where's work? Why am I not at work? And there it goes. There it goes. She doesn't remember. She gets it's a panic mode, and the
right.
adrenaline starts pumping, and she doesn't have the stop button for the fright and flight. So if she gets into a panic or overexcited, her brain just goes on overload, and there's no stopping her.
As I like to say, I know some people. I think they get their ideas about short-term memory, and some of it's actually pretty decent from some of the movies that have come out. I know, talk about
50
first
first
dates.
dates. I thought, oh boy, I wish my daughter's panic attack was just going out on the pier going, oh, I wish it. No,
Yeah, no,
it's
no,
a
no.
true panic for them. What's going on? What's happening here? Why am I here? Where am I? What's going on? And oh, it's
So it's not just coming out in the morning, popping a tape in.
oh
Oh,
my.
here you go.
And do you know people actually believe that's what it is? They'll say, well, why don't you just remind her? I go, well, I could remind her every 5, 10 minutes. It took me 2 years to actually get her used to day and night and what day of the week it could possibly be by constantly having things around the house that would not only tell you what the seasons were, but whether it was morning. So we would have a specific, like, the morning TV show would come on. And I'd say, oh, do you know what time of day it is? She goes, well, I don't know. I go, well, look around and see what you see or what you hear. Oh, that's the Today Show. It comes on in the morning. Yes, it's the morning. So we had to do it for afternoon. We had to do it for evening. And it always had to be the same to get her used to just time and place and where you're at. And it's can you imagine waking up every single morning and not having a purpose for your day?
I wish for that sometimes.
So do I. But it gets
But only
old.
for a day.
What do I do
Only for a
today?
day.
Only
Only
for
for
a
a day.
day.
Only for a day. Yes.
Because we even plan out our day on our vacation.
Right.
This is what we're going to be doing. But if you say, what, you can never say, well, what do you want to do tomorrow? Because that's gone. That's gone. So that being said, you have the panic attacks and the behavior. Then you get into the behavior modification modes that psychologists like to use, which do work well with the reward system, cause and effect type thing. And it doesn't work very well with brain injury. When number one, you can't remember what you did.
No.
Then you can't remember what the reward was, and actually you just don't care at that point. So these behavior modification models do not work. They do not work.
Yeah, it is a lot of like having to do with memory, and then it's also having a reinforcement that actually works for the person. So like I know I go through this with my son.
Right.
He's one of those kids that you can tell him, okay, I'm taking away your TV, you're in timeout. And I'll sit there with his imagination, and he'll play, and he'll
have a
just
good time anyway. It doesn't matter.
So it's not like it's something that really matters that much to him. I know last week we had a situation where he prolonged an event that he was having, and we caught him on it. And because kids learn how to manipulate certain things, especially when they have specific conditions, and we took away his phone, which he's playing Pokemon Go. I know it's like the latest and greatest thing, and the kid's so engrossed in it, and it's like he so like enjoys it. And it was the first thing that actually hit him.
Hit him, yeah. You have to find the Achilles heel.
Now, if I think of that with your daughter, if I took away something that she enjoyed like that, she would come around the next day and she wouldn't understand or make the connection.
No.
That you've taken away this as or she can't earn it back. She won't even think about like that. She'll be
No,
like, the phone's gone. The phone's not even like entering
no,
into her head.
no. And she has no idea why you would do that. Um, every once in a while, because her brain will start racing and it won't shut off. And when that happens, she won't sleep. And then you have a lot of behaviors because you're overtired. Your brain's overtired anyway. And with a brain injury, it's extremely overtired. And she'll get very panicky. She'll, a lot of times, take her to the ER where they can give her medications that I'm not going to give her at home to kind of help calm her down a little bit. And the first thing they'll do is say, your mom's outside in the waiting room, and she's not coming in until you calm down.
Uh-huh.
Well, first of all, she has no control of what's going on. And people really don't understand that. They really think, oh, she's got to have some control. She really has no control because nobody really wants to act like that.
No, they don't.
They really don't want to act like that. And all she heard you say was, your mom's not going to come in here. So you've just thrown some more gasoline onto this fire. Now you're in panic on top of everything else. Educating people in how to handle brain injury. You know, hospitals are bad enough. There's so much stimulus, and you go in there with your brain overstimulated anyway, and you have all these people talking in front of you. It just makes it.
And this is the place that you have to go in order to be able
to
to get the medication
to get the medications
calm her down.
Right. So you're kind of trying to educate everybody at the same time you're trying to help your daughter, and it's very difficult. And she doesn't remember, and she'll come around and say, where am I? Why am I here? What's going on here? And then you're likely to go into another one because now she's scared. Why am I here? Why are all these people here? Why can't I go home? It's
So you're constantly what you're constantly doing is you're orienting your daughter to what's kind of going on
all day, every day.
All day, every day.
All day, every
And
day.
you have staff that come in. And I know during the day.
Wonderful staff.
You have independent
Wonderful.
living skills trainers, and then you have like companions in the evening. Mm-hmm. And these independent living skills trainers are working with that. But unfortunately, in your situation, the state will only allow for like one person to come in at a time, and she frequently needs two people if she has one of these panic episodes.
She does. Sometimes she'll need two people because you'll become the target of the panic. So you really can't help her if she's, coming at you, or you're the bad guy, or she doesn't understand what's going on and she's in this mode. Our ILSTs it's a job that's very difficult because it's specific to that brain injury. You can kind of learn, you have to teach this and you have to teach that, but it's very specific to that individual, into what they can do, what they can't do, how to maneuver through the day with them and get them out and do the things you need to do. They are very caring, very thoughtful individuals. It's unbelievable what they do.
And I say this,
I so admire them.
I know on my end, a lot of people
It's difficult.
look at you and I think they do, like, through the state, they think that, these are like, glorified babysitters. Or
Oh my gosh.
Or they just don't.
They do.
They don't understand, the level of competency that you have to have in order to be able to do this kind of work.
It takes a lot. It's a lot, and most, they'll come into this and it's training on the job, but it's also it's a professional mentality with our ILSTs. This is their profession, their job. They love what they do. You have to love what you do because it's the most difficult job. If we have a week of just really tough times and the ILSTs are hanging in there, really working on with it, all my daughter has to do is look at one of them and say, you know what, thank you so much for what you do for me. I know I can be difficult. And that's all they ask for. And they love it. And they're like, wow, we got through this. We did this. Anna Marie's doing this now. She's, back to doing that. It's a difficult job. Here, put your shoes on.
I know.
Not doing too much and doing enough. Right.
I go through it frequently. And you know what? I like to say, look, I've been in this field for over 25 years doing different levels of
Right.
care for different populations, mainly brain injury for, I guess, going on probably more than 20 years now.
Yes.
And there are situations that come up where I'm learning and learning how to help somebody and learning where there's a line in between doing it for them and allowing them to like be able to feel like they're independent, because some of the
It's a
people
line.
it's really difficult.
Yes, it is difficult.
I know I have one of my clients. He lost his mom a couple of years ago, and it completely changed the dynamic. Obviously,
Right.
she did so much for him that even behind the scenes, it didn't really become apparent until after she wasn't there.
Right.
And a lot of what I used to do was, or she would do is we would make the appointments, and he felt safe and comfortable with that, and he kind of like allowed him to be detached from it. But now he doesn't have like his mom, like
He's lost. Yeah.
So a lot of it was, we were having discussions about different things and, different psychiatrists, and he's got like, thoughts about how he wants things to be. And sometimes they're difficult. sometimes they're, I don't want to be on like this medication. And I'm like, well, yeah, this is what like helps
And
you.
I'm
like,
not
with this.
taking it either.
Right. And then finally, I had to come around to the point of saying, well, you had to discuss this with your psychiatrist if he's okay, but we're going to be honest with him
Right.
and tell
That's
him
how
like
we are.
what the symptoms he goes through, and he'll go through periods of difficulty and where he's like a little bit more on the depressive like side or
Right.
stress and anxiety, but he feels in control of his life because he's allowed to make that choice. But some of that, we have to deal with the other parts of it. And it's getting him to understand that, okay, well, you made this choice over here.
And these are the right choices that you
Right.
made. Great
Or-
choice. I'm glad you made that choice. That was a good one.
Or that, this is what's happening to your body because
Right.
of the choice that you make. And it's complicated.
It's
So
extremely complicated. That's what they don't know. And that's only a very small part of that. People want control over their lives, and even when but yet they depend on us to help them when they are out of control of their life. That
Exactly.
we have to be the person to stand there and make sure that they're safe, that they're and everybody around them is safe. We have to do that, and they depend on us for that too. So it's a big job that the ILSTs have. It's not just a babysitting. We don't just turn the TV on and watch.
And I
TV
think
all day.
That's what makes working with people with brain injury completely different. Is,
Yes.
You know what? A lot of people who, if you were born like with developmental disabilities,
Right.
That's your life. That's
Right.
what you're accustomed to.
That's
When you have something happen to you in the mental health system,
Right.
there's usually a part of some things that are leading up to that, and then somewhere in adolescence or late adolescence, you have your mental health like disorders like that come
Right.
on you. When you have like brain injury, you're going
It's
down
instant.
like everybody else, and you're like, I have a life, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and then boom, from
it's
that
done.
like day, everything's completely different.
Everything's done, and they do. My daughter has long-term memory.
Yes.
She knows what
Right.
her life was like
Yep.
before, and she's very confused by, well, why don't I have that? Or she'll get very depressed and I want a normal life. I want to be me again. And so we have to help her through that to become the new me. The new me. This is who you are, and this is where we're going. But it's a daily struggle for them. I can't even imagine. I can't imagine just waking up one day and just not knowing where I was, what I'm doing, and and your brain's betraying you, plays tricks on you almost. And also you have the mental health issue on it, where if it's a true mental health issue, you can take these medications. Say you're a true bipolar,
Yep.
and they're going to help you. But if you have an injury, but you're exhibiting the signs of bipolar, sometimes your moods are up, sometimes the medications are not going to do that. You're going to have a lot of side effects from them. It's trial and error, and it's very, very difficult.
Was, as I like to say, even though they might look like some things that are mental health related,
Right.
sometimes they can be completely different.
I
Like
agree.
I'd have somebody who has a brain injury, and they constantly are like checking that their oven's off. So they'll go in and like check it like three,
Ours
four, five,
is the water running?
3, 4, 5 times,
Is the water
3, 4,
running?
5 times a day.
Yes. Is the water running? I left the water
and
running.
most people would
Yes.
say, well, you're being like obsessive or compulsive,
Can't
and
stop.
that you can treat obsession and compulsion with medication, but it's not because of something that's going on with a chemical imbalance. It's because they have a
Exactly.
real life fear
Exactly.
that they're not remembering something,
It's exactly.
and that they have to go
It's
turn
scary.
it off.
The water's going to overflow all
Right.
over the house. You got to turn the water off. The water's off. The water's off. But to her, it's a real fear. Now, you could call it, like you said, an OCD type thing, but it's a fear. It's a fear, and it plays around like a record in their head.
And so I know a lot of what you deal with, and I guess they really haven't come up with a complete answer
No,
for what your daughter goes through.
No.
I mean, some people would call it, maybe she's having like a seizure.
Yep. It looks like seizures when she's having them.
And
It looks like
and
one,
I
but-
know I mean, I went through something similar with my
Yeah.
kid, where he was having things, and I've dealt with seizures for the last
Yeah.
25 years, and it looked like a seizure to
looks
me,
like
and we had him
seizures.
off to the emergency room, and they did like an EEG where they hook up all the electrodes, and they misread it at the hospital.
Yeah, that happens too.
And so he was put on medication, which all of a sudden, as a side effect to it, causes behavioral episodes.
I'll never get that. Most of the medications that we have to take cause behavior episodes. I'm like, okay, so how does that help
They're
this?
like, well, this is like the easiest one to for your body to process
Right.
because of his issues, and so we ended up, as we're titrating up on this, and
It gets worse. Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
we ended up in Yale back a couple times, and their neurologists were reluctant to take him off of the medication, because I'm like telling them, this is really not like a good thing. Give
Yeah.
me something different, or let's figure something out different. And they're like, oh, well, he can take a B complex vitamin, and that's gonna help with his behaviors. So my biggest laugh was because we were in there the very next day, and he's having one of these type of outbursts, and he kicks the neurologist. So we said, okay, you see that there's a problem? We're like, can you admit him now? And can we take
Right.
a look at it? And they did a 24-hour, EEG, and it came back, and they reread the first one. They're like, well, he doesn't have this. So there are so many things that are out there that can mimic
Exactly.
what's something that they
Exactly.
feel like they're trained to look at and do, but in reality, they're very different.
They're very different. We're fortunate because in our doctors, they know her very well. We've kept the same ones. The doctor who prescribes her medication, it's a psychiatrist, and he's specialized in just people that are very sensitive to different drugs and things, tough cases. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. I can call him anytime. He'll always call me back. We have such a rapport with Anna Marie that he knows that we know the medications. He listens to what we have to say, and we go from there. He's absolutely amazing. He's gone to bat for her in hospitals. I can't tell you how many times where they said, "Oh, this is just no way," and he's brought her around. He's brought her around, and he's just amazing. And that's another big key to it, is trying to find the right doctors who will kind of go outside the box a little bit.
Oh yeah.
They you have to work as a team with it. If you feel that you're with a doctor who isn't listening to you, go, because it's never going to help you. It's
No.
not going to help you. We've been through it too many times with doctors in hospitals and what have you. I tell them, this medication is not working. I can see the side effects already. Look what's happening. Well, give it some more time. Next thing you know, we're in ICU because we've had trouble with a drug. Like, how much more are you going to keep doing this?
You know, it's so important, the relationships that you have, especially with those people that are prescribing the med.
Extremely important.
Yeah,
It's the
it
key
is.
to it.
It really is, because if
And
they
fight for what
if-
you want.
if they are confident in you and what
Right.
you're saying,
Right.
that you're seeing, and you know, trying to come up with a plan together. I mean, I've worked with psychiatrists.
That's a
for
great
years.
doctors who will do that. Take the ego
Yeah.
out of it.
And a lot of them are like that. They're very good. And
We're just so fortunate that, but we went through a lot of the other ones, and we still come through a lot of the other ones. If we're in a hospital or something, they want to, well, let's try this drug on her. I go, well, she's had that before, and it's caused such and such side effect. Well, maybe it won't this time. So why do we have to put her through that again?
so, Doc, if I load up the 6-shooter and I give you 5 bullets in there, are you willing to play Russian roulette with
Exactly.
it? Just for that one shot.
For that one shot.
That it's not going to happen like that way.
That's the best way to put it, because that's exactly how you feel. You just walk in there and go, oh, here we go again. So, yeah, with behavior issues, and a lot of people with brain injuries have behavioral issues. They don't have a stop button. The stop button in either what they're speaking about, or their anger, or love. It could be love. They can overlove you at some points, which I don't argue with that one. I love
It's not an
that.
issue.
That's a good one. It's a good one. That one's nice. But, you know, and they do have a lot of behavior. And a lot of times, you know, they're put into psychiatric wards, and, you know, for help, for medication adjustments. But they're not truly psychiatric patients.
No.
And there is no place, this is what I have found, there is no place with an in-between to go if somebody's having some type of behavioral issues, or, you know, any type of other brain issues with, that they can go for a short stay
Yep.
and get back on their feet and get moving again. They go to a psychiatric place. It's always a psychiatric. You're in the psychiatric ward. You're in a room with nothing in your room. There's nothing. And when you're coming around in and out, you're scared to death. You don't know where you are. Why? And the people are treating you in, not that you have a brain injury, but that you are psychotic.
Which kind of, all this stuff, I guess, brings me around to two parts. One, I'm glad that we all got together, and there was probably a good 100 of us that really stood our ground. And what we were able to accomplish was, and I get told this by legislators all the time, that we had the most, I don't know a good way to say it, a difficult public hearing that they have ever faced, or they have ever dealt with, because what we were asking for was, we were asking for our program to be left intact.
Left intact.
The state wanted to change it from what we deal with, which is a rehabilitation model,
Exactly.
to a caretaker model.
Right. That's not what we need.
And so what we were able to eventually get them to agree to, first off, was to have a second waiver,
Right.
so that the programs that we had were supposed to be left intact, not changed in our program for the people that we had. And for the second one, they wanted to, take away some of the amount of money that they had, and so we fought them like several times because, we don't just do this for like the people that we work with. We look at it as like our whole community.
It's a whole community.
And everybody realizes how much people go through when they're first having to deal with this. And we want to make sure that the pieces are left intact for the
Right.
people that come afterwards. So I know we had this big contentious meeting in front of appropriations and human services, and
We floored them.
well, we done that like there was the first one where we stopped them from taking away the ILSTs and the cognitive behavioralists. Then it was the second one was to get them to increase services that they were given.
Right.
And then the last one really was several different things. It was, number one, it was to make sure that the state was going to keep our program intact no matter what, even if it loses federal funding.
Right.
They wrote it into law that it was going to be kept. And the reason we wanted to make sure that the people that are on that program got the opportunity to stay on that program, because if your daughter's services were cut and you didn't have like the people to be able to come in that have that level of
Training
care
and
and training and
professionalism.
everything else,
Exactly.
you'd be at a loss. It's not
I
like
wouldn't be able to do it.
it's not like you can pick
wouldn't be
somebody
able to
off
do
of the
it.
street
No,
and be like, oh,
no.
here you go. It doesn't work
They
like
would
that.
they would last a day. And she would make sure they last a day because she's, why is this stranger in my house? Right?
Right. So I think
It would be detrimental.
we were very fortunate because we caused so many problems up there that they were willing to negotiate, and that was we tried to take as much as we possibly could because it was like a train coming down the tracks. They had it in their
terrible.
mind that they were going to do
They
like
were going to
this,
do it.
and that was it. And we caused so much trouble with them and testifying and everything else.
And knowledgeable. We're
Right.
knowledgeable about this community. And for somebody to stand up there and say, well, you can, what if it was you? Because this can happen to you.
Well, that was
Or somebody you love. You could be me fighting here
that was
one
the
day.
one that actually stood out the most. Was it did happen to one of them.
Yes.
And Andy Maynard, and Andy Maynard
Yes.
is a good friend of the show, and he made it through his last term, and obviously he's had issues that he had to deal with, and I've seen him up at the Capitol, before this last session, and here, it can happen to anybody.
It can happen to anybody. And it happened to our family. It can happen to anybody's family. And I knew nothing about brain injury, what it entails. I knew nothing. So in the middle of the most traumatic event of your entire life, you have to learn all this too.
Yep, you have to learn.
You
on the
have to,
fly.
wow, I have to be eyes, ears, advocate. What do we do? How do we, trying to get through your own stuff too, and there's nobody to really help you.
So I know one of the things that was put in there was that, number one, our program wouldn't collapse down upon itself, funding wise, but also
Yeah, that was a big fear.
also it was, and this is particularly important for you, is if your daughter goes into the hospital, they can't switch the programs around. She has to come back out onto the program that she already is on, because then she would have lost
That's
services.
true, unless, but she can only be in the hospital for, I believe it's 90 days. No, not even 90. It's not even 90. I think it's on day 68 you have to be out, or you're off the program. So where do you come back to?
Well,
You don't come back on your regular
I'm
program.
pretty sure it was written in that they
don't
they
know.
would always have that opportunity, because I remember
Hope so.
your representative, who actually sat up in chamber, and I actually have it
Mm-hmm.
on video, and asked that question, and they
Yeah.
said yes. Whether the Department of Social Services has a complete understanding of that
I
is
don't,
is a different thing. But
don't think
that would be
so.
something that we'd have to go beat them up over.
And then they would say, well, even if you do, well, now we don't have a waiting list for the ABI1 because we're on it.
Yeah.
But it would be, oh, well, now you're on the bottom of the waiting list, so you're not going to have services until your turn comes up again. So you have to be out of that hospital by day 68, or you're right back to square one again. Not
which
fair.
Which is like I said, I think they just don't understand a lot
They
of what the
don't
ramifications.
understand.
Same thing that's changed around recently with these care managers that they said are we're going to replace like the DSS social workers, and they're making all these promises that these people are going to have some level of experience. Or
They have
something.
none. Mine has none.
None.
She doesn't even know.
None.
So what am I doing again? Educating about TBI now to the new case manager after I had the same social worker who was a social worker and knew what the system was and what we needed to do. We had her for, oh gosh, 12 years.
And sometimes I think people in the state, they make change for change's sake. And I don't think that they understand, oh, we're saving like $100,000 over here. How much difficulty that they cause within that, and how much trauma it is to the families that deal with it. But I know I know you looked at me originally and you said, how are we going to speak for an hour? And I know we're 45 minutes
Well, I
in,
know you and I can talk forever, so.
But I do want to get to one of the things that we talked about at the beginning, which was the medical marijuana.
Oh, that's a whole story.
And what it takes, and I guess how it's
to
helped
get
your
there.
daughter. I guess first start off with you have to go to a doctor that's going to prescribe this.
Well,
right?
you have to have a regular, your doctor has to send in a diagnosis to these. There are specific doctors that you have to see, and there aren't that many of them because the federal rules and regulations or whatever. So Anna Marie's doctor sent a diagnosis over. Now, there's a criteria for the diagnosis. I believe there's 12 of them now. So you have to fit in one of those 12.
So not just anybody.
No, you have to fit into one of
more
those 12.
specific,
So
like-
where do we put Anna Marie in here? Brain injury is not one of them. PTSD is one of them. There's Crohn's disease. There's a list of them, but she really wasn't fitting into too many of them. You could kind of throw her into PTSD and get it going. From there, that's faxed over to the doctor. So then you have to try to get an appointment with the doctor. So we got the appointment, brought Anna Marie in. It's cash money, too, for these doctors.
Oh, yeah.
$250 to $300.
No insurance company's paying for any.
And
of
you
this
got to
stuff.
pay cash.
Yeah.
They want cash for it. And you go, through him, through all these paperwork. Then he starts the registration process. Then you get to go to the dispensary. If you're approved, which, she was, you go to the dispensary. And then you have to go through the whole thing again. And you have to pay another $100 for her to be certified with the state, and me another $25 to be. So now you're talking about people on disability. These are for health care type of things. And that's a lot of money for somebody on disability. The $100 is yearly. Then you get your temporary cards. They do all the background checks, and once your cards come in, then you can go to the dispensary. And there it is, tons of stuff.
It must be like going through like the security, like gated like a prison.
Oh, I got to show my ID. I got to buzz in and show my ID. It's all darked out windows. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. This is just so ridiculous. You go in there and you just, you're like, oh, I'm here for marijuana. The dispensary pharmacists are wonderful. They're the only ones. The doctors really can't help you with what you might need or whatever. You have to, the pharmacists do, and they were very helpful. But Anna Marie's doctor gave us very good advice. He said, Don't spend more than $150 the first time you go in, because you're not going to know what's going to work. And medical marijuana is very expensive. The state is very rigid on where it comes from, how it's grown, the standards of it. I like that because I want to know where it's coming from. I want to know that it's
Well, you want to
tested.
feel safe.
I do, and if not, people are just going to buy it on the street. The pharmacists were very good, but not everything works. There's different types for daytime, different types for nighttime. You can smoke it, you can use vape pens on it with it, the oils, you can take it by mouth, you can put it in food, the oils. I can't even tell you how many different oils there are. So you have to educate yourself on all of it, and then try to get the brain injured person to take it.
Yes.
And that's a whole nother one. So you're spending money for, we tried cookies and,
Well, it's almost like any other, like dealing with any other kind of medication.
It is just like any other kind of medication.
It's an experiment.
And you don't know how long will it, is it going to last an hour? Is it going to last 2 hours? Is it going to take an hour to work, or is it going to take 2 hours to work? So it's kind of playing around with it, and it takes time. It takes time.
So now for your daughter, what has it helped with?
Anxiety. It's helped her sleep. I could say that.
Because I know your daughter's gone like days without sleeping.
That's one of her biggest problems. She'll go, by the third day of not sleeping, we're in the hospital, because she just can't shut herself down. She can't shut it down.
She can go like beyond a week.
Yes, she can. They've put her under anesthesia once to try to get her brain to stop. This has worked very well for sleeping. We've got the sleeping part down. She'll have the occasional night, but it's not running into, the days and days and days of it. It's helped a lot. During the day, it helps with her anxiety. There's some that it's just, depends on the level of THC and CBD, what's in them. There's some for the day that won't really knock her out very much, but will make her feel calm. Mm-hmm. They work cerebrally to just calm her down, make her feel good. Not stoned.
No.
She doesn't feel stoned. She just will feel comfortable. And it's wonderful to see.
It's what they say. It's medical.
She's on less drugs. She's on less drugs. She's on less drugs right now.
So because of being able to do this, you could take away some of the anxiety medication.
Yes.
And what people don't really understand for people with brain injury, when you give them certain types of medications, which are like Valium or Ativan, or other things along those lines, it affects their memory and their brain processing.
Yes, it does.
And I know one gentleman we worked with, and usually, like if you're in a nursing home or you're in some of these other places, one of the first things you do if somebody gets agitated is they're like, here, take this pill.
And it doesn't work after a while.
It doesn't. So she was able to come off of some of the medications.
She went from 6 Ativan a day to 1.
Right.
Now that's a big, in itself.
That's a big difference.
That in itself is a big difference. That in itself.
And like I said, the Ativan has an effect on your memory. So here she has memory problems.
Yes.
So maybe she'll have a better response, or maybe part of less of her anxiety is she might have like a little bit longer memory retention in what's going on and be able to stay focused.
She stays focused. I think she can stay focused a little bit better with it. At first, trying to regulate it. How much do you give during the day? What is enough? There isn't too much. That's the one thing I like about it. There isn't too much.
Well, you can't overdose.
You can't overdose on it. You can't overdose on it. Not like you can, and Ativan or some of these other drugs. Sure. And what are the side effects? I don't really. The side effect I see is less anxiety. And we all eat a lot more candy. But she seems to. I see a difference in her. Her staff sees a difference in her, and it's helping her. It is helping her. But my biggest gripe is people with disabilities are the ones. If you're seriously ill, you have MS, you have Crohn's disease, you have whatever these diagnoses are, pretty serious diseases. Majority of these people are going to be on some sort of disability. How can they afford to treat them? They can't. And that's a part that I'm really, really
So now,
upset about.
How much does this cost? I know you paid the 150 for like your annual license. How much does this cost you like a month?
Maybe $500, maybe. We're just getting used to it, but
Right.
I feel like I'm always at the dispensary.
So $500, and your daughter is on basic Social Security
Yes,
disability.
yes.
So she gets a maximum of about $730.
Not even that yet. Yeah, yeah.
So $730.
There's no way. There's no way. There's no way.
So
There's no way.
I think, I mean, I know that you're paying for this out of your pocket. If we're talking about this in federal or state, legislation, that they need to be able to take a look at this is how do we get something like this to be covered by insurance? And so I know on the federal side, I mean, they have to take it away from like being like a class 1. Like,
I wish they
drug.
would stop this whole nonsense. It's just nonsense.
And that's something that obviously is it's complicated for a lot of people because they don't want like the situation where younger people to take this because it can affect your brain development.
But your medicine cabinets are filled with all kinds of drugs and alcohol.
And that's one of the other issues. So I mean, there's a lot that has to go into this. I think eventually, the world's going to come around to, that I'm sure they're probably going to legalize
It has to be.
recreation.
It has to be. It has
But
to be.
the other part about this, for the people in the state and legislators who are dealing with this is, for the people that are disabled and the people that are in this boat, it's not like we're talking about people who have boatloads of money.
No. No.
And this is highly regulated by the state.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, it is.
That the state's insurance policy, which is Medicare, Medicaid, if somebody is in that situation, should probably pay for it. But I don't think people have ever heard, like, what are the kind of, like, benefits? Or everybody thinks that, okay, you give them, like, this stuff, and all they're going to do is get stoned all day. It doesn't get your daughter stoned.
No, it doesn't. You should see the people in the dispensary. They range from there are just so many different people that are in there looking for help.
Yep. Right.
They're looking for help. I met one woman who was there for a caregiver for her husband. He had Parkinson's disease. She said, this has just been a miracle for him. His tremors are gone. He's able to get and do more things. So she said, I qualify too because I have Crohn's disease. I went, wow, well, how's it working for that? She goes, oh, I can't afford to treat myself.
Right.
So that upset me a lot.
Well,
a lot.
It's for palliative, I mean, they're so quick to put you on like all these opioid like medications
Yes.
for pain, which have so many more side effects, versus something that's natural.
I'm just so I didn't know what to expect when I started her on it, but I thought I have to try something. And the process of doing this was so encompassing. I thought, oh my gosh, it has helped her. And everybody that I've talked to that is using it for their medical reasons, it's helping them. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Well, see, that's like I said. This is the part where people don't get it.
No, they're not getting it.
And they announce it. So.
And it's Anna Marie's on medical marijuana now. Oh, you're doing that? Yep.
Well, my dear, we came to the
We did it.
end of our time here. This is my lovely visit with a good old friend.
It was fun. It was fun.
It was truly fun. I'm so glad you came down here and you're
Me
able to
too.
come on and talk about this.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And so hopefully next week, I do believe we have Ed Gomes coming back on, and I think we're working on some other TV shows to talk about some of what's going on down in Bridgeport and the senatorial elections. We look forward to seeing you again. You guys have a wonderful evening, and hopefully the man with no hair will be back next week. The white beard. We can run the street.